G'day folks, my name's Kev. Welcome to my garden blog. Over this series of blogs, they'll be pretty random. We'll just look at the things I do in my garden, and my garden is just a normal house block in the suburbs of Mackay in the state of Queensland, Australia. Our climate is subtropical, not quite fully tropical. And without any further ado, we'll get into the blog. The first thing we might do today is, it's end of spring and there's a few flowers out. I'm not a big flower gardener, but we'll just go and take a look at a few of them. I like to keep a few pots of what I call easy grown flowers, with petunias and marigolds and that in bowls on the patio, because we often sit out here and it adds a bit of colour there, and they're doing really well. This batch, all I did was mix 3 colours, the purple and the white and the red, and just splattered them through the pots. The mix I put in there is 1/3 cow manure, 1/3 chicken manure, and 1/3 compost, and a bit of perlite to loosen it up a bit. That's a nice moist mix. It doesn't dry out too much, because as you probably know, these bowls can dry out fairly rapidly. These I water twice a week, on a Sunday and a Wednesday. Right, onwards. Always like to keep on the corner here where the sun blasts in the afternoon, a bowl of oh, I've lost the name now. You probably know what they are. A bougainvillea. Yeah, this one needs trimming. Get the scissors out later and take the dead heads off. They always like that. And desert roses this time of year are blooming. I'm learning a bit about desert roses. They seem to bloom twice a year, but I'm not certain about that. It's a bit erratic. I've got some nice flowers this year, from the plain standard pink and white, and some doubles, or they might call them triples, I'm not sure. I think this one's called a triple. And my favourite, single white. Easy grown plant. Hard. When I gather the seeds and plant them each year, they're hard to get single whites to come in the batch. You can get various sorts, but that one's a hard one to get. It's an unusual colour, like a washed out red. Other flowers in the yard are a seedlings tray here. These are in cuttings that are in, you can see the water in there, in the little trays. Bougainvilleas. Here we have a new pot of geraniums. And an older pot of geraniums. Take a walk around the garden and see what else we got. Now you might be wondering what's all the bells ringing and noises in the background. That's my partner's chime collection. She's got quite a few here along the patio. And the next flower we're going to look at is an unusual one to some people, and that's this Cycad. Now this This plant is a male plant. This variety of cycad comes in male and female, and this is a male cone, and this produces pollen. Sometimes, yeah, I was lucky. You can see the pollen falling out. I'll get the camera in close and then give it a tap. Yeah, that's the male pollen. Now, in the Japanese islands where these cycad comes from, there would be insects that carry this pollen to the female plants and pollinate the female's flower, and the seeds will form. But here in Australia, you either do it yourself or go without. It's going to be pretty random. I'll just walk around my backyard and see what comes up in front of me next. Next one will be these. Don't know the name of this plant. It always puts out most of the year round. You get these little red elongated bells on there. Plant's a bit scrubby, but it's a nice plant if you've got the right spot for it. I nearly missed one. The crucifix orchid. Get the spider webs out the way, because this is their time of the year as well for spider webs. Now we'll duck under this rope. And that's the flower from the crucifix orchid. I tie them to the palm trunks, and they grow quite happily there. Don't need any soil. While we're here, there's a few air plants. This one just finished flowering. The flowers have withered, and the seeds will form now in the dried husks. The seeds will wander off, lodge down into receptacles, and sprout. That's an air plant, or Tillandsia species. My bird bath. I always like to keep some water. This is a nice, this is up in the back corner of my backyard. A sheltered, safe area for the little birds to come in and have a drink there. It needs a bit of a clean. I'll change that later today. I was wondering, what am I going to show next? Just looking for flowers, but I see something coming up. I'm not sure of the name of this orchid. I'm not good with plant names, but it has a wonderful flower just there, and looks like we're going to get quite a show as these new buds, flower buds, open up gradually. There's more under there, under the mess of leaves. I purchased a new mulcher chipper, petrol driven one, a large one recently, so and I haven't got to this corner yet, but these palm leaves will all be cut back, cut upwards, and just leave a tuft on the top. Let some light into these nicer plants underneath. Don't know where that's came from. Oh yeah, there's another orchid there. There's the stems there. Hardly ever see a flower on this one, but nice when they do appear. Onward through the jungle. While we're here, this is also a flower in this bromeliad. It stays in the vase, and that's it just there. Now we're right up in the back corner of my backyard. It's a bit messy up in here. This is right against the fence, and this is just a utility area, not a pathway or anything, just a where I keep a space between the garden and the fence. My pathway's over on that side. But you need to come here to have a look for these flowers, and here's a nice one. Now this is tied to a golden cane palm trunk. They seem to grow well on there. I tie them on with what we call in Australia shade cloth, shelter cloth that you put out to stop the light in greenhouses and that. I tie it on with that, and the plant establishes the roots itself and grips on after a while. Nice flower on that one. Don't ask me names of orchids. I write them in a book when I buy them and tie them to the tree, and that's the last I see the name. It's just called an orchid to me. Well, no more flowers up this way, but I see one over there. So we'll get onto the footpath out of this utility area. Don't you hate it when you can't think of the name? I do know the name of this orchid now. I can't think of it now. I'm talking on the video, but it's a nice flower. There's another variety of the same one there. Once again, these have been tied to the palm trunks, and in this case a self-seeded elkhorn has taken over. I don't plant these. I tie the orchid on, and once again the spores that occur, well, there's none present at the moment, the spores that occur on the underside of these leaves blow through the air, lodge in the spaces where I've tied the orchid, and they grow by themselves. Nice little bromeliad flower there, poking its head out in the footpath. Another internal flower in a bromeliad, and just appears in the vase and has no extensions out. Yeah, these are nice. I always like these. It's a rugged, prickly bromeliad, a menace when you're working with it or thinning it out. The thorns are painful, but then you think it's worth it to get these nice, almost luminescent flowers. And another one there we missed on the way up. Once again a bromeliad. I'm just going to pause from the flowers for a minute to show you a cycad and a problem we have here, because it's rare to be able to capture what the problem is. I'll show you. It's when you get the new leaves on the cycad, and there's a little moth about the size of your thumbnail that darts around, lays its eggs on the brand new emerging leaves, and when the leaves erupt and get their green colour, they're wrecked, absolutely torn to shreds from the grubs, from the damage when it's tiny. If we're getting close, he might not fly away. He's called the palm dartmouth moth, and he's currently laying eggs on these new cycad leaves. I won't be able to get too close or he'll dart off. He's doing his business there. So what we'll do, there he goes. Just going to take a pause from this and spray that with a soft insecticide straight away. That will also, and when these leaves then erupt and turn into and develop into the green leaves, they won't have the damage the damage occurs all along the edges where the moth's been chewing the young erupting leaves. So we'll spray that now. Just on the subject of sprays, I use hardly any insecticides in my yard at all, but I can't beat the cycads, the damage the moth does to cycads, so that's one of the rare ones I will use. The only other one I use is tomato dust, which is a soft insecticide, mainly sulphur I think, on tomatoes, because we get grubs here in Queensland on the tomatoes if we don't dust them. Alright, we'll give this plant a spray. And just a tip for people who don't spray either insecticides or even fertilizer on plants, always put a little bit of detergent, or better still a wetting agent, which is like a strong detergent, in with your spray, so that it sticks to what you're spraying. Most plants are totally waterproof actually, and yet the spray just goes straight off. We might spray the moth as well if we can get him. Run out of steam. Now this is a systemic insecticide, which means it goes into the plant's system and moves around, and when the moth does anything with the plant, it's in every leaf of the plant. Well, you learn something every day. I was getting annoyed that my GoPro screen keeps going black when I'm recording, and you lose vision of what you're looking at or recording, but it says just to touch it and bring it back to life, because it turns off after a minute. So there you go, for GoPro users, tip. Now where we are now is in the little area I've made where I sit and have my lunch some days in the summer. It's usually cooler than the rest of the open yard. Once again I have another bird bath, and the little what we call sunbirds here in Queensland come in and use that, another sheltered area, when they can avoid the cat. Cat's always on the prowl, but they find it relatively safe in here. Now while we're in here, we'll look at the flowers in here. This one here is a nice orchid. This one, I had to trim some golden cane palms in the front yard, and they had orchids tied on them, so I've kept the trunks and the cut sections where the orchids were, and they seem to continue growing quite happily. Just put a bit of some screws and some wire in there, hang them on some nails, and give them a splash of water once a week, and they're quite happy there. This one particular orchid, and once again I don't know the name, spends most of its life naked with no leaves on it. Now there's some leaves growing there, and there's a certain time of year when it's all leaves, but most of the year it's just naked. Another orchid up there, looking for the light. Still can't remember the name of them. Ah, I remembered. Phalaenopsis, if I'm saying it right. Phalaenopsis, I think. What's this flower? Ah, it's a gnome in a tree with a bit of shade cloth, keeping her decent. Onwards through the jungle. Let's see another orchid. Oh, we missed this one. This is a orchid, not sure what sort it is. but it grows on the trees here. I'd say it might be a native orchid because I get the little pieces just in the forests here. It doesn't have much of a flower, just a spray of very fine flowers there once a year. Another nice one because it's for free. Another orchid up there in the distance. Look at that elkhorn. It's grown just by itself. They grow surprisingly rapidly as well. Now, get around here. Once again, we're up against the fence on the side of my yard, but it was worth the walk. Look at this. This only happened once a year, and we're just lucky enough that it's right now. That's another Phalaenopsis. My partner often buys me an orchid for at gift time, different gift times during the year, and she got me that one a couple of years ago. Now this is just the utility space between my garden and the fence once again, down the side of my house. Now there was a flower up right up there, but it's gone now. Not sure I'm looking up in here somewhere. If you can see it. Here in the tropics, these things like this, these creepers, bromeliads, orchids, you just tie them to a tree and they're right, because we have a lot of rain during the year. It does still help to fertilise them twice a year. Now I say that, but often I only get to them once a year. But it's better to do it twice, just with a liquid fertiliser and a cheap spray bottle, and just spray them. And also, for instance, this one, also spray some on the trunk just above it, and the fertiliser will linger on here, and then the next rains gradually feed it. And once again, stick it in with your fertiliser, a drop of dishwashing liquid or a dedicated wetting agent from the garden centre. More flowers inside, internal flowers in the bromeliads. Makes for a nice display up a tree trunk or a palm trunk. Turning the corner, I almost missed one. Just caught my eye. Can you see it? In amongst the bromeliads? Can you see it now? Right there. Another Phalaenopsis. Once this plant was on the tree trunk, but the bromeliads have been voracious and taken it over. But it still pokes its flower stems out. By the way, with these Phalaenopsis, if you can avoid it, never cut the old stems, even though they look dry, and that they'll often erupt a flower down further down. Another Cycad, new leaves coming out. This area needs trimming. It's terrible actually. But now I have my new mulcher chipper, I will gradually get to it over the following year. Nice air plant, not a flower but nice. Here we have we have two. One in here, outside there, and a little plant with a single flower there. Now, I think the only remaining flowers are these ones here. Now I'm going to cheat and stop the video because I can't remember the name of them and come back with a name. Well, I couldn't find the name of it. Perhaps you can remind me in the comments to this video. Now what we might do is we finish the backyard. As far as flowers, we'll go for a walk in the front yard. That's my new chipper mulcher. We'll take a closer look at that in a further blog. And that's the mulch it produces. I'm mainly mulching coarse palm leaves and that. Here's a pile waiting to be put through once it gets big enough. Now back to the flowers. The front yard's a lot more harsher and not as sheltered as the backyard. The wind howls down the street, the wide street, and comes into the yard. So the plants have to be a little tougher out here. We've looked at this orchid before, but it's worth another look. Yeah, nice little one. We've also looked at this one before. Yeah, crucifix orchid. My front yard's similar to the backyard. Palms, cycads, and then plants tied to the trunks of the palms. There's a flower that's not your traditional flower spoken about. It's the flower on the dwarf date palm. Once again, this is a pollen producer. I'll see if I can get some pollen to... Yep, there we go. Probably can't see it falling, but you can see it on my hand. And that's the dwarf date palm just there. Another tall one there. They're at each side of my driveway. I'm always having to trim these leaves while they hit the car. Now we might be lucky to see another flower out here, apart from the few we've seen before. A different coloured crucifix orchid flower. Another bromeliad flower tied to the foxtail palm trunk. More repeats of the same thing. A dainty little orchid in there. This weed, creeper weed here, is a pest. And a large desert rose that grows in my garden. And that, folks, is the limit of the flowers at this time of year. Well, if you've reached this point, you've persevered with episode 1 of my blog, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the next vlog. Thanks for watching.